MaKenzie Tiegs, you're back.
I am back.
Back as in like we haven't sat down for a show for like years. The last time we did a show, it was in the white armchairs in my studio in Eagle. And that had to be like 2 years ago.
It was like a year and a half ago, but
Yeah.
a solid time apart for sure.
Yeah, a lot has happened.
A lot has happened.
A lot has happened. Listen, you do a lot of things. You are an outspoken advocate for mental help and peer support within the emergency responder field. You are an outspoken advocate for including emergency medical responders in better treatments, better unionization. I mean, obviously, you were the first person to really help me understand the nature of what's going on in an ambulance with the employees in the ambulance. And like, as somebody who is transporting people, especially during COVID times, like you drop somebody off at the hospital, turn around for another emergency, and it's just trauma and crisis all day long because ain't nobody calling an ambulance when their day is going well.
Right.
Like I saw this post from Eagle Fire, and again, like no problem with Eagle Fire at all. Love those guys, but it was somebody had a goat that got trapped.
Oh, I saw that,
and I was like, God bless it. Like it's so funny, right? It's like it's not always cats. Like sometimes you get your goat trapped in a fence or whatever, and you got to call the fire department.
Yes,
but there was no point when you were getting a call for a trapped goat. It's like, you're 100% trauma. You're 100% car wreck. You're 100% heart attack. You're 100%, oh my God, this person needs to get to the hospital and we have to keep him alive.
Yeah. It's such a mix of that, but it's also such a mix of non-emergent situations where we get pulled in and maybe it's somebody that is 622 pounds that needs to be helped up from the floor. You know, like EMS is so diverse in what we could be responding to and also how we practice. Like my new role right now is working with St. Luke's for a new hospital home program. I love it for not only our paramedics and just being able to pioneer a new way, but also for our community. So we have obviously seen a huge influx in our Treasure Valley. Like you said, I've done a lot of things, sold real estate for the past 4 years. And so you see these influx of people, but you think, okay, what else is happening? Well, when those people move to our area, that also impacts our hospitals. And so now you're having people that, you know, our same hospital system that we've had for how many ever years that they've been here, right? And not really expanded a whole lot. We're kind of in this in between, and I guess I'm kind of jumping into like what I'm doing now. But it really kind of comes back to like EMS is so sacred. Like I really don't think a lot of people understand what it is that we do or why we do the things that we do. And this new program is also getting a lot more of the hospital involved and the doctors involved to say like, whoa, I didn't realize that these paramedics do this. Like, I just, there's not a lot of education about that or a lot of forefront pushing that. I remember just a couple days ago, one of the real estate agents had put on his, a reel about the new license plates coming out. And I was like, I had posted, I was like, hey, I really hope, next Idaho could come with a first responder license plate. Somebody responded, they're like, well, there's a fire department one. It's like, EMS isn't fire though. Like we are so different than being on a fire truck. We're so different than law enforcement. And I think it's time that EMS starts kind of talking more about it. We have a lot of changes, right? You had Michael Stowell on.
I was going to say Chief Stowell.
Yes.
Good
yeah.
Lord.
Like
they were able to successfully pass their temporary levy, right?
Yes. Which is such a huge win for Canyon County. Like I would be at the hospital and run into crews and they're like, I don't know what we're going to do. Like if this levy doesn't pass. And I'm like, those aren't just people. Like those are also my friends. Those are also our community members. Like I think people just forget about that. Like,
but if I may, it's not just community members. Like one of the major problems, especially with the population that's moving in here, and you, I'm sure, experienced it in your real estate career, was, okay, we have older populations moving in as well, because Idaho is obviously a very, very favored area for retirement individuals from out of state. Okay, great. but they bring with them this inherent cost of, for instance, if you're, Chief Stoll outlined it very perfectly. He was like, listen, we get about 65 cents on the dollar every time we respond to somebody for like Medicare or something like that. And so he said, look, you're dealing with older people, a higher concentration and a higher population of older people that are more likely to need ambulance services. And we get reimbursed at a failing rate for that ambulance service. And we can't charge more. It's not like we can just up our rates. So they're constrained by the amount of reimbursement they get from insurance companies or Medicare, things like that, and from property tax. And they have no control over what they charge, or excuse me, they have no control over their expenses. And they're just like, okay, so we can only get this much. And the expenses are going up like this. They were on I think they had like 6 months of solvency or something if the levy didn't get passed. So It's like, yeah, community members 100%, like, yeah, support for the community 100%. You will not have his ambulance services. This doesn't come to pass. And then you're beholden to professional private ambulance services. And that's a whole bag of goodness.
Yeah. And we don't have a lot, right? Our private ambulances, some of our counties actually have ordinances against them. But also a lot of our private ambulances are transport companies. So they're taking somebody from maybe the Nampa St. Luke's that they don't have a bed for that individual because it's overpopulated. And so they'll transport them to either the Meridian or the Boise St. Luke's. And so there's a lot of just this moving logistics around what that all entails for that and what we're doing. So I think it's, I'm super excited for Canyon. EMS has a really big transition also in July. We're actually going to be going underneath of the military for our licensures, getting away from Idaho Health and Welfare, hoping to actually be able to get EMS in the state of Idaho as essential workers. So right now we are not. There's only about 8 states that are, but what that would allow for is more of that grant funding to be able to come pay for these services and for our providers themselves. And so I think we're on the up and up, right? We've kind of been in the trenches for a long time, but even with mental health, I mean, we're really seeing a huge transition in people saying like enough is enough. You talked about it, right? The years of trauma, that was all stacked upon my own childhood trauma. And that was stacked upon, the years that I just had this mentality that I was going to tough it up. It was kind of the culture that we're around. It's the messages we're told. And so you kind of fall into that line and that's what you do. And over this last year and a half of me not being on podcast, of doing my own or not going on to anybody else's, it really has been a season of healing. It's been tremendous. What kind of got shown to me of my own life and where I needed to be able to take that time and distance and say, hey, I am here for everybody else. It's time for me to be here for myself.
Yeah. And you were as a paramedic for, it was like 5 or 6 years?
I've been a paramedic for 8 years now.
Excuse me, 8. Yeah. Yep. And again, it's that kind of thing where you're seeing a difficult part of humanity. Mm-hmm. You're confronting it, and you're confronting it in uncontrolled environments, be it at an at-home environment, right? Or, on the side of a freeway, something, or in the middle of a freeway. Yeah. Like, you really see these very difficult things that we need people to be able to see and then come back day in and day out and keep going after. And I was actually was very fortunate to do fire ops through Eagle and Boise fire departments. They put it on recently. And my last evolution in that day was going to the ambulance area, where they, finally got to take off the turnouts. There it is. It's like, still had the pants and the boots on, but took the jacket off. Dude, it was hot. I had this great idea towards the end. And this was the beginning of May, so it wasn't even that. It was like 80 degrees. And I was like, listen, guys, this is what you need to do. Next year, don't do fire ops in May. Do fire ops in August. But this is what you're going to do. You're not going to make the participants do anything except put the turnouts on. Put the turnouts on, put a tank on your back. Don't even put the mask on. Just hold the tank and just stand here just make it 4 hours. Real quick day. Right. 4 hours. And then make those people watch the actual firemen break through doors and chainsaw through roofs and do search and rescue in the 100-degree weather while you're just standing there drinking water and watching them, and just watch the people fall. Like, there's no, because like I can handle some heat, but even in May, at the beginning of May, by 10 a.m., there were people throwing up like from heat exhaustion. It was like, it's only 10 a.m. and we're not even working.
Right.
Like, we're not doing anything. We're just standing like, yeah, it's like maybe I opened the door with an axe or something, but like it was nothing big. Right. Anyway, yeah, it's just the difficulty of that engagement. And towards the end with the ambulance guy, it was almost like a throat, like he almost felt bad about saying like, and I think, we should advocate for, more regular mental health checkups. And look, this is not my show. I was there as a guest, so I didn't want to, get in this big conversation. But like, of course you should, man. Like, of course you should. This is crazy. Like, the things you guys are doing are crazy, and not just putting out fires, but then again, operating in different capacities, right? But on an ambulance, it's like you have people dying in front of you in this ambulance. You know what he told me? Jesus Christ. This guy, he told everyone, he's like, listen, when we go to pick somebody up in the ambulance, 90% chance they're dying. It's like, we're successful at saving somebody's life about 10% of the time. And that's with the best technology. That's with the best information. That's with the fastest ambulance and safest ambulance. There's a 90% chance. I was like, okay, could you imagine going to work every day, knowing all day long, you're going to pick up people? It was like people that have been beat by their parents, people that have been beat by spouses, got in a street fight, got in a car accident, 90% chance they're dead, and you got to come back tomorrow. It's like, Jesus Christ.
It doesn't set you up for like, you're like wondering why people aren't getting into the profession. It's like that right there, right? They want you to do that, and leadership will tell you like, well, if you can't do this, then this job isn't meant for you. Like,
this job is not meant for anyone.
This job is not meant
for human beings.
Anybody to be able to see and handle the things that we deal with, right? And as a paramedic, you really do. You have multiple different hats that you wear, right? Sometimes you're going into a domestic violence where you're not using any of the tools in your ambulance. You're using your voice. You're being able to connect with them. You're being able to see the entire situation to what is the next best step for them. And a lot of the times, you do that, but you have no control over what's going to happen after that. I think too, leadership needs to understand there's some leadership that have been in the field of EMS, and there's a lot that haven't. And recently this came about where lady was having a heart attack. They get her in the ambulance. They're doing all the procedures that they're following the protocols, right? Head to Boise. Individual goes into cardiac arrest. They start CPR. They start medications. They're going code to the hospital, and they get back to the station, and the director said, "I wish I could tell you good job, but I can't because they didn't survive." And it's like, you have just dismissed every single thing that a paramedic is actually there to do and to be able to be there for. We are not God, and I think so much of our world is that they think that like we have the medications, we have the tools, we have the equipment, like we can bring everybody back. We can't. That's just simply not able to do. And there is so much grief in this job. There's so much grief that we hold on to. And that was really what I struggled with, is not realizing that's what I was going through, was grief of these people that you would have a conversation with and then boom, they're dead. And you're like, how am I supposed to feel about that, right? Like, did I do something wrong? And you put this weight on yourself of, if I could have just done, right? And really, there isn't anything else you could have done. You could have gone through that entire situation, done everything correctly, but it was their time. And we need to be able to have the resources to be able to help us recoup from that, be able to understand that it's not us that is doing these things wrong. Now, there could be some, medications that should have been given or not given, right? We see this all across, the news of paramedics maybe giving the wrong medication, killing somebody, that sort of thing. But the majority of it is we are truly doing our best of our capabilities, but we are not God. And we, there's sometimes that you get this kind of this slogan of a paragod where they're just very robust and thinking that like they can change the world, and
you're going to save everybody.
You're going to save everybody, and like, oh, I'm here to save the day. And the reality of it is like we do the best that we can, and there is a higher power in charge of us and the people that we're responding to.
Man, to there was I can't remember if it was like Saving Private Ryan or I can't remember exactly what film it was, but there was a scene in it might have been Black Hawk Down. I can't remember, but there was a scene in a war film where there's a team of people like bandaging up somebody and like working really hard to keep them alive. Everybody's doing all these things. And it's like, okay, we got him stabilized. And then a bullet comes and shoots him in the head. And the guy's like, fuck. Because of course, like for obvious reasons, and you put all this work in, but the idea that the entire situation is in your hands and you're responsible for the entirety of the outcome is such an unfair thing. When it's like, listen, man, life is damn insane, right? Like, you want to blame me for somebody dying? Fine. Get me there the second they have a heart attack. Don't wait for somebody to call an ambulance. Don't wait for me to get it to the location. Like, there are so many variables that go into this. Mm-hmm. That's really, really discouraging to hear that an emergency medical person would be blamed. Just like, oh, you didn't do a good job, because it's like, okay, well then give me the metric by which I can gauge myself as doing a good job. And if you're saying that 90% of the time I just have done a bad job, find somebody who can hit 80%, right? If I'm doing such a bad job, find somebody who can hit 70%, just 70%. Mm-hmm. You should be able to do that, right? It's like, that doesn't exist, man. Like, there's an imperfect nature of the world, especially when you're dealing with disease and death and mobile hospitals where you have underpaid and overworked individuals driving like 90 miles an hour to get somebody to the hospital and trying to keep them alive in the back. Like, that's a lot of variable, man. I don't think you should look at me and say like, this is all my fault.
Right. Right. And I think that's, so much of my approach is helping educate that piece, right? Is truly bridging that gap where I come from the true experience of being that paramedic, but I also have the knowledge from, my psychology degree and what I've studied and how much research I've put into this. And there's a lot of the links. And I will say, in EMS and as first responders, we have gotten to a point where we're aware, right? We are aware that we are messed up, but what do we do after that? And that's really that next step of you have to take action. And so a lot of the conferences that I've, spoke at over this last year and a lot of the departments that I've worked with, it's going from an awareness to an action. And we can talk about these things all we want, but until we're actually doing them, that's where you're going to start seeing the change. And that's where you're going to start seeing the culture shift as well. And, like I said, we truly are seeing that needle move in a direction that we're wanting it to, but it's still taking more and more people to get on that bandwagon with us and say, hey, this is an important thing, right? We're prioritizing this. Why are we prioritizing this? Because it's retention for our crew members, right? It's not only retention for us, but retention for them as a human being. It doesn't matter if you get out of the job, and I saw that with myself, and when I jumped, into real estate full time, I was away from the career, but those calls weren't gone. And the things that I, struggled with weren't gone. But to me, it was like, well, I'm just going to continue down this route, kind of remove myself from those stressors and things will get better. They didn't necessarily get better. It was just that it wasn't maybe as prevalent that I was seeing, but my nervous system was still imprinted by those things, going through, a lot of the recovery that I have over this past year and a half. I've had to go back to those stories and write them out and say, okay, how can I look at this at a different, perspective from myself? How can I see maybe where I wasn't supported in those and go back and talk to that girl that says, hey, like, what was upsetting you so much about this call? What was affecting you so much? One call specifically that I look back on, just like relationships, we got called out to somebody in Anderson Ranch who had basically the family had or the individual had called 911, said, we heard somebody yell for help. We can't see them. We've got crews, we got people in the water, and they were looking for him. And that happened to be right where my family was camping. So I hear exactly, that loop, and I'm freaking out, right? I'm thinking it's one of my nieces. I'm thinking one of my nephews, somebody from my family. Everybody that was there prior law enforcement or in law enforcement, you know, fish and game officer. My dad was there. My mom was there. Like everybody that you could imagine and you would want to be in a situation like this was there. They were searching for him. Basically the water had gotten so cold. He had went over, basically seized up and drowned right there. So here's me on the ambulance. I go up there, and one of my favorite all-time Air St. Luke's paramedics and RNs, Ike, they get there on the helicopter. He's like, hey, if we find the person, like we're starting CPR. And I was like, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but like, if we haven't found him yet, like we're not going to. Like, I trust these people that have been here that they would have found him. And obviously we didn't. We left and I went back to the station. I was like, I'm calling out the rest of my shift. Like I had still another, 30 hours on my shift. Called out, went up there with my family, hung out with them for the night. They sent the dive team the next morning, recovered the body. And I just remember all my nieces and nephews just being there. And one of our good family friends, he still talks about, he's like, that still really affects me. I'm like, absolutely, it's still going to affect you, right? Like here you see everybody going into action. And for me as the paramedic, the story is just like so many layers, because I remember being a young girl in that same cove and watching Air St. Luke's land and, completely like uplifting all of the dirt. I remember having, chili dogs that night and there was dirt in our sour cream because they had responded to a guy that had fallen off the cliff on his horse. And so there's just these layers and layers and layers. And my point being, from that story, I got home and I was dating this guy. And I just bawled, right? Like I thought he was a safe place. I just got home and I was just like, this is really affecting me. Like here I thought that it could have been one of my family members, right? Like you hear this. And his response to me was like, well, it wasn't. So you need to get over it. He also was prior military and kind of had that, compound effect of childhood trauma onto a career of trauma as well, in a relationship with somebody else that was in this. And what I've come to learn is that so much of what we do, our whole past is still inside of us. We can't disregard any of that to be happening. But in those moments, it's truly asking yourself, like, what is it that you need? I needed somebody that was going to be able to support me in a career like this. I unfortunately stayed with him for years after that. Ended up, obviously leaving. But in that moment, I had to ask, like, MaKenzie, like, why were you staying in something so unhealthy? Our careers are so unhealthy. There's so much toxicity. There's so much trauma. And we don't have a lot of resources to being able to offload that, to being able to clear our nervous systems, to being able to say, hey, this is a normal response for an unnormal scenario that you're going to, right? This is an extraordinary scenario that you are putting yourself in and day out, and being able to kind of offload that so that you can keep doing this career. And that's really my big purpose, is like, I don't want to be on the ambulance anymore, and I'm okay with that. But what I do want to be able to do is help prepare people and help keep people on the ambulances so that they can keep doing it.
Do you think that people that experience these types of traumas professionally, do you think that it's easier for them, or do you think that they seek out significant others that kind of like share that understanding of trauma, which obviously can have like a compounding effect where, they understand the trauma, but all of a sudden all the trauma is like normalized, mm-hmm. and everything just seems normal, where it's like, yeah, this is just the everyday, like people dying left and right. It's like, holy cow, man.
Right. Yeah, I definitely do. The term trauma bond, right? You're truly bonding over this trauma.
I thought that was like, you had to have a traumatic experience together. Like that movie Speed, Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, yeah. It's like, relationships based on traumatic experiences don't last.
No.
Right.
Yeah. So
but you're just saying like parallel traumas.
Parallel. Yeah. Okay. So it happens a lot especially in first responders, infidelity, right? And one of the biggest reasons is because you find that safety being able to talk about this. So not a lot of humans can hear these types of stories and not think like, I don't want to hear them anymore. Right. And so they find another first responder that they can share these stories with. And that's kind of how they start this kind of dialogue between each other. And then they think like, oh my gosh, I can tell you everything. And then it starts, you know, kind of, you start making this relationship with them. I've seen it a lot. I wouldn't say that, I don't know, I've never asked my parents, but my parents were both first responders. I know that was a big part of their relationship, was being able to have those conversations. But you know, I don't know to what degree, you know, did that help or did that not help their relationship? They're now divorced, so I don't know. I think it is, you know, especially being a female, I've had to protect myself in many different ways, because men do find safety in me, right? They can open up, they can talk to me, they can tell me these things. And so a lot of, you know, my partners, you would have to have very strict boundaries with them so that that didn't get crossed, and saying, hey, we're the same profession, but like, you're not coming after me, right? Like, sorry, I have a very strict rule. My friends were like, you're gonna find a police officer. I'm like, okay, I'm outside of the profession now. Like, it's fine. But like, when I worked, I was like, I am never dating somebody as a first responder. Yeah. I'm not. I know police officers behind the walls, and they're great people. They are, but I don't want somebody that's infatuated with this trauma. You know,
man, that's such a. I've never experienced what you're talking about, but that observation, like, you don't want somebody who's infatuated with the trauma. That's wild.
But some people are badge bunnies, and so they go after it.
Oh my God.
Because it's safety, right? That's what us as women like crave, is safety. And you see somebody in a badge, and you see somebody with a gun, and you see, you know, even as a paramedic, right? Like, their uniforms, you're like, oh my gosh, they would save me. And it's like,
they would save me.
Like,
I wish I knew, like, I used to have this really funny bit with my SAT students about how, girls don't like guys. And it was all about like, and especially for 16, 17-year-olds, you're like, listen, there's nothing that a guy, like, guys want somebody who they think dresses nice. Like, a guy likes a girl, you know, that guy thinks, hey, she dresses well. You also know it's like the girl doesn't smell. Like, if the girl smells, the guy's not. But like, so the guy thinks the girl he's dating dresses well. He thinks she's smart, right? Because there's nothing more annoying than like somebody who you don't think is very intelligent. It's like, you're not going to be attracted to that person. You're not going to date them. You might hang out with them for like an hour. But the point is, like, they dress well, they smell good, they're not dumb. Like, all of these things, because like, guys like girls, and they select people. A guy would never date a girl who doesn't dress well, that smells, and that's dumb. Like, there's no way, right? But girls will totally date guys that they think are dumb, that they think stink, that have no sense of fashion. It's like, because girls don't actually like guys. That's it. They just don't like them. And it's this big, and every teenage girl initially be like, that's not true. I'm like, yeah, it is. Just think about it. They're like, damn, you're right. But what I found interesting after a while of thinking about this, I'm like, yeah, but girls probably like guys for other reasons. Mm-hmm. Like, I've never been attracted to a girl because I'm like, oh my God, she's so big and strong. Like, that's just not a thing, right? And I've never felt comfort in wearing my girlfriend's like oversized hoodie and be like, I feel so snuggly in this. Right? Like, not a thing. But it's like a thing it's my understanding, it's a thing for women. It's like, what a different way of being attracted to somebody. It's not that I don't have that perspective. I'll never be a badge bunny.
No, you wouldn't. No.
She's so strong. She'll protect me. God. I'm sure there are some very large women that could protect me.
As you, like, the black belt person, like, oh, come and save me.
Save me.
You have such strong muscles.
I mean, like, I don't know. She'd have to be huge too, because I'm 6'2". I'd have to find like a 6'5", big lady.
No, we don't need those ladies for you.
Well, no, especially because I'm married, happily married. Like, I definitely don't need some like 6'5" lady to save. Well, I mean, maybe I need to be saved. I don't know. In the right circumstances. But I wouldn't be a badge bunny.
No. But this brings up like because we've talked about it before, and like, I'm single. I've been single for the last 3.5 years, and just like the journey that has. I do have standards, and a lot of those, honestly, just because I wasn't in a relationship doesn't mean that I also had standards. Like, I've done some pretty sketchy shit, okay? I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie, okay? Like,
oh my God,
girls are girls, and but like, there's so much to be said in like what we desire, right? Out of a man, and I've been reading the book, now I forget the title, about men are from Mars, women are for Venus. And yeah. I truly love the concept of like being on different planets and looking at each other, right? Like, here the women on Venus were just like these playful creative people, like just yapping away, doing our thing, whatever. And then there's these men on Mars with their telescopes. They're like, yeah, look at how that girl dances. She's pretty cute. Like, that truly is, when you break it down,
oh my
like,
God,
that is how in my head, like, it works, And so, I don't know, just being like single, and yes, there's standards and there's things that I've had to heal from. But I also think there's such a dynamic shift in like our culture too, of like, a lot of men don't want to reach out to women. They've been hurt in the past, or these things have been happening. And it's like, as women, you just have to understand your own worth. And that is a lot of what I've had to really build upon these last, year and a half for myself, is those narratives and saying like, I am worthy to have a man that desires me, that says, wow, she is so beautiful and intelligent, and I want to make her a better person alongside, while she pushes me to do the things that I want to do as well. And it is like, I don't know, life is crazy. That's all I have to say. I don't know.
We have come full circle. Yeah, I was actually talking to some of my last students are just graduating from college, and that was really sad, because it's like, damn, man, these are like my people. I spent so much time working with young people, and they're graduating, and one of them, the two sisters actually, the youngest just graduated, and the older sister was there, parents were there, and we were hanging out at the house downtown Boise, and it was funny because the women there that are now like, 22 to 25 were all bemoaning their poor state of existence because like they can't find the right man. Like, okay, first off, you're 22. Like, just calm down. Like, you just got your degree this morning. Can you just give it a minute? You have that problem of expectancy and anticipation, but my message to them, and I've never been a young woman looking for a man, but I was like, listen, engage in a meaningful life yourself. Engage in things that you deeply value and cherish. If that's a career, if that's, pottery, if it's whatever the hell it is, doesn't matter to me, but engage in that and make yourself the best version, so that when you do meet the right guy, you have the best version of you to offer. And when the right guy meets you, he's like, wow, that person is great. They have all these like skill sets and interests and all these things to offer. But just like focus on that, because instead what you're doing is just like, where's the man? And they had all these reasons why guys were like not right for them. And it's like, oh, guys aren't. It's like, I guarantee you there's a guy out there who's awesome, that's interested in, finding somebody. You guys just haven't connected yet. And if you just sit around being frustrated about it, you're going to waste your days that you could have been improving yourself. It's like, get after it, man.
Yeah. No, I think that's so true. So last night I actually happened to be going through some of my old things, like old photos, and kind of organizing them. And I actually came across, it must have been my senior year of high school that I wrote this. And it was like, what am I going to do after it? Right. And I wanted to be a police officer, actually. I wanted to go to CSI. I want to go to, go through post. And it talks about like, and I want to graduate college. And then my next step is going to find my man and make a family. And like, and I just was like kind of laughing about it, of like, oh, if that girl only knew like what she's going to have in store for her. Like, first of all, the man's not going to come until later, and that's okay. And that's totally okay. But in that time frame, like, I couldn't even tell my younger self all of the amazing things that I've been able to do, and the amazing people that I've got to meet, and the amazing places that I've been able to go from all of these things, and how they all will be interacted to who you are in your life, And with my profession right now, like, I'm going into a lot of homes with elderly people. And I just think to myself, I'm like, these are, 82-year-old ladies single. Like, do you think that they sit at home like wondering where their man is at 82? No, they're doing those things that they loved when they were younger. They're doing those things that made them who they were in this life. And it's not about finding that other person. And who's to say that I find that right person and they don't get hit by a freaking train? Like, I don't know, like they're probably going to be adventurous like me, and who's not to say an accident can happen. And so you can't put everything into finding somebody, because I think ultimately it's truly about finding ourselves, and we're so lost of even doing that. And like every single day it's a journey. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize I like this, or like, oh, these are the things I like, and these are the things I don't, and this is what I'm doing with my life, and I love when people are like, you have such an interesting life, MaKenzie. I'm like, I love having an interesting life, because you don't know what I'm doing next. I don't even know what I'm doing next, and like just having that perspective for these kind of young, college girls that are going out into the world, like take care of yourself, just like we talked about it to our first responders. I think that was something that really wasn't instilled in me when I was younger. And, telling those young girls in college and even the young men, like, take care of yourselves, because just as we see things, other people in the world see things too that they can't always unsee. And this life is here for us to be in pain and suffering. Not to say like it's all going to be that way, but like you have to be mentally fit to be able to get through this. And I think that's truly why I think we're seeing so many suicides, is that they're not being instilled with those ground foundational, concepts of mental fitness to be able to push through when things don't go our ways and things don't go the way that we had planned for them. And, I think this last year and a half has really taught me that too, is like, do I wish I was somewhere different in my career? Absolutely. Do I wish I was somewhere different with my speaking engagements? Absolutely. Right. But guess what? I'm right here. I'm right here talking to freaking Matt Todd. Like, how exciting is that? Right? It's been a year and a half since we've been able to do this. Like, this is what I'm thankful for. After this, guess what? I get to go to a concert that I met, the guy from being Dirk Bentley's on-stage medic who got me to another concert, to getting a concert. It's like, that's where the web of connections comes from. It doesn't have to be around, finding somebody. It's being yourself.
And one really important point that I think is valuable when you talk about like our lives are suffering, right? Like, and they're very hard, and we are seeing more suicides. And when people talk about mental resilience and, training ourselves to be strong, if you just make a parallel to sports training, right? You used to have the old school coaching of like, suck it up, get over it, blah, blah. And that got people a certain distance, to a certain capacity. And as training has developed, like you look at UFC fighters, like incredible athletes, but the recovery and the maintenance of those bodies has become so much more of a focus, instead of just suck it up. It's like, you can't do that. You will fall apart. Like, they're asking too much. So the science of recovery and the science of support and maintenance has developed to get a better quality outcome from those athletes. Same thing. You can't just tell people, yeah, it's hard, suck it. It's like, you got to train them on how to recover. You got to train them on how to make themselves durable and elastic and capable of it, of absorbing the difficulty, and then coming back the next day. And the answer can't just be better, just be tougher, just, take more abuse. It's like, yeah, that works to a point. And then people fall apart. Like, you're not going to get the end result you want.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Listen, I know you're short on time today. God bless you. Thank you for coming in. Let's not wait another year and a half till we do this again.
Perfect. I appreciate you and everything you're doing. Anyways, one last quick thing. I love this, and I want listeners to hear this, because I think this is truly the power of podcasting. Is I'm working as a paramedic with St. Luke's at Hospital at Home, and one of our doctors was with me, and we get done out of the house and we're standing in the driveway. We're just kind of bullshitting, and he says, I know that you have a podcast. He goes, but I would love if you, are you going to start going on to other people's podcasts? And he says, I have this podcast. It's called The Ranch. And I was like, bro, I know this guy.
I know this guy.
He's on speed dial. Okay. I know this guy. And I just kind of sat there and I was like, oh, well, how do you know him? And he's like, oh, he's amazing. He's doing this and he's doing that. And it just like, it brings me back to, I know you on a personal level and the grind of this podcast and the grind of these conversations as well. And I just want the listeners to know, like, you are doing an amazing job and you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. And to be able to see that in the world and people talking about the podcast the way that it is just truly shows the power that you are putting in for it and to seeing it grow the way that it's growing and truly an inspiration. So that's what I have for you.
God bless you. I appreciate that. Yeah, you are somebody who's known and seen behind the curtain for like years now. It's there aren't that many people. I mean, you might be one of the only ones, but yeah, it's wild. It is amazing that, you know, yeah, it's just amazing. I feel blessed every day. Anyway, thanks for being here, MaKenzie.
You're welcome. Thanks, Matt.